In every grocery store's natural health section sits a modest $2 bottle capable of resolving chronic dry eye syndrome at its root. This is not a temporary relief, nor a lifelong cycle of hourly drops. One single application in each eye before sleep can restore proper function at the glandular level. Astonishingly, Egyptian physicians recorded this treatment more than 3,500 years ago in the Ebers Papyrus, one of the most extensive medical manuscripts ever preserved. Modern ophthalmology journals have verified its effectiveness. Patients suffering persistent dry eyes experienced measurable improvements in tear film stability in less than 30 days. The global eye drop industry earns over $5 billion annually. Lubricating drops, artificial tears, and prescription medications are designed to be used repeatedly, indefinitely. On average, a person with chronic dry eye spends $300 to $600 every year on these products. With approximately 35 million Americans affected, the financial scale becomes evident. A simple $2 bottle capable of naturally restoring the eye's tear-producing system represents a threat to this industry's profits. It did not vanish due to failure. It disappeared because it worked too effectively. This is the story of castor oil, a remedy ignored by a $5 billion market for centuries. The tale begins around 1550 BC in ancient Egypt. Royal scribes were tasked with compiling what would become the Ebers Papyrus, a scroll exceeding 20 meters in length containing over 700 medical prescriptions, treatments, and clinical notes collected over generations. Among its entries is a detailed protocol for treating inflamed and irritated eyes, calling explicitly for the application of castor oil. This guidance was not minor or incidental. It was a formally recognized therapy in one of history's most authoritative medical documents. The Nile Delta created an environment that challenged ocular health. Desert winds constantly assaulted the eyes with sand, intense ultraviolet radiation disrupted tear film chemistry, smoke from fires and lamps caused continual irritation, and seasonal flooding fostered bacterial and fungal infections. The population suffered high rates of chronic eye conditions. Observationally, physicians discovered that castor oil extracted from the seeds of the castor plant, which flourished across North Africa, provided lasting relief, reduced inflammation, and promoted healing of the ocular surface. This knowledge extended beyond Egypt. Greek physicians traveling to Alexandria, the intellectual hub of the ancient world and home to the Great Library, transported the use of castor oil back to the Mediterranean. Dioscorides, a Greek military doctor, documented its use in his 5-volume pharmacological work, De Materia Medica, which remained a reference for European and Islamic physicians for over 15 centuries. Knowledge of castor oil spread across the Roman Empire, where military doctors treated soldiers' desert-related eye conditions with it. Independently, Ayurvedic practitioners in India were also using castor oil for eye ailments, documented in foundational texts like the Sushruta Samhita. Persian physicians of the Islamic Golden Age, following scholars such as Ibn Sina, integrated castor oil into their remedies, combining Greek, Indian, and Persian medical traditions. Across civilizations, separated by continents and cultures, the same botanical solution emerged independently, addressing the universal biology of the human eye. The 20th century brought a shift, not due to superior treatments, but due to profit-driven alternatives. The 1950s introduced commercial artificial tears, synthetic solutions, meant to temporarily supplement the tear film's aqueous layer. By the 1980s, pharmaceutical companies had created an entire market for these products, further expanded by prescription dry eye medications in the 2000s, requiring regular doctor visits and monthly refills. Castor oil, despite millennia of proven effectiveness, quietly disappeared from the medical conversation, not because it failed, but because it could not generate quarterly profits. Modern science now confirms what Egyptian doctors observed 35 centuries ago, revealing the molecular mechanisms behind castor oil's effects and highlighting the artificial tear industry's focus on treating the wrong problem. The human eye relies on 3 distinct tear layers, each performing a unique function. The innermost mucin layer, produced by specialized goblet cells in the conjunctiva, ensures the tear film adheres to the eye's surface. Without it, tears simply slide off, leaving the eye dry and vulnerable. Castor oil works at this fundamental level, supporting the natural production and stability of all tear layers, reducing inflammation, and restoring the eye's own protective mechanisms. It is a simple, inexpensive solution with a history that spans millennia and continents, a remedy once widely recognized, now overshadowed by a lucrative cycle of temporary fixes and repeat purchases. The evidence is clear, the history is undeniable, and the result is profound. Lasting relief for chronic dry eye that reconnects with the body's own biological design. The tear film's middle component is the aqueous layer, what most people envision when they picture tears. It is water-based, secreted by the lacrimal glands, and transports oxygen, nutrients, and immune factors across the corneal surface. But the outermost layer, the lipid layer, is the one that determines whether dry eye syndrome develops, and it is the layer the eye drop industry has spent 7 decades largely overlooking. This layer is produced by the meibomian glands, a row of microscopic sebaceous glands lining the edges of both upper and lower eyelids. Every time you blink, these glands release a complex blend of lipids that spreads across the aqueous layer, forming a protective seal. This lipid barrier is critical. It prevents rapid evaporation of the aqueous tears. Without it, tears disappear almost immediately, leaving the corneal surface parched. The brain senses this dryness and commands the lacrimal glands to produce more aqueous tears. Yet, without a functioning lipid seal, these additional tears evaporate even faster. The cycle repeats endlessly. Patients often remain chronically dry-eyed, even producing excess tears in some cases. This condition, known as evaporative dry eye disease, accounts for roughly 80 to 86% of all chronic dry eye cases. Here lies the crucial fact. Artificial tears cannot resolve evaporative dry eye disease. They are incapable of repairing the underlying problem. Artificial tears temporarily replenish the aqueous layer, adding water-based lubrication to eyes that are dry due to a compromised lipid layer. But this is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. Continuous pouring is necessary because the fundamental defect, the broken lipid barrier, remains unaddressed. Castor oil operates via a completely different mechanism. Its primary active ingredient, ricinoleic acid, comprises about 90% of the fatty acids in cold-pressed castor oil. Ricinoleic acid possesses 3 distinct properties that make it uniquely effective against meibomian gland dysfunction. First, ricinoleic acid is a potent anti-inflammatory agent. The meibomian glands fail primarily because eyelid inflammation, driven by bacterial colonization, environmental irritants, and autoimmune triggers, clogs the gland openings with solidified lipid secretions. Inflammation causes the obstruction prevents lipid secretion, the lipid layer fails, and tears evaporate. Ricinoleic acid reduces the eyelid inflammation at the root of this cascade. Second, it is sufficiently viscous to supplement the lipid layer directly on contact. A single nightly drop immediately slows tear evaporation by adding lipid support externally, providing symptomatic relief from the first use, while deeper therapeutic processes, reducing inflammation and clearing blocked glands, take place over days and weeks. Third, ricinoleic acid penetrates obstructed meibomian glands, softening the hardened waxy secretions responsible for the blockage. With consistent nightly application, these obstructions clear, the glands regain normal function, and the lipid layer restores itself. A 2018 study in the journal Contact Lens and Anterior Eye measured tear breakup time, the standard clinical measure of tear film stability, in patients with meibomian gland dysfunction who applied a single drop of castor oil before sleep each night. After 30 days, tear breakup time improved significantly compared to baseline, and patients reported major relief in symptoms. No artificial tear formulation achieved comparable improvement in the same period. Artificial tears cannot repair a lipid layer. Only lipids themselves can restore lipid function. This is not a philosophical assertion. It is fundamental biochemistry. Here's the fact the eye drop industry has spent decades concealing. The global artificial tear market generates over $5 billion each year. Prescription dry eye medications, led by products such as Restasis and Xiidra, add another $3 to $4 billion. Combined, the dry eye industry generates $8 to $9 billion annually. Every dollar of this revenue depends on a single principle. Dry eye must be managed chronically with ongoing purchases, not treated at the glandular level with a $2 bottle of castor oil. Consider the conventional treatment model. A patient notices dry eye symptoms, visits an ophthalmologist, and receives a prescription for artificial tears to be used 4 to 8 times daily, indefinitely. If relief is insufficient, the patient may receive Restasis or Xiidra, immune-modulating eye drops costing $400 to $600 per month without insurance. These medications reduce lacrimal gland inflammation, but do not address meibomian gland dysfunction or restore the lipid layer. They offer partial symptomatic relief while patients continue monthly purchases. Additionally, ophthalmologists may recommend LipiFlow, a device applying heat and pressure to express blocked meibomian glands. This procedure costs between $800 and $1,000 per eye, with results lasting 6 to 12 months before repeating. Every aspect of this care pathway is structured for recurring revenue, requiring professional involvement in generating billing codes. A $2 bottle of cold-pressed castor oil, used nightly at home, reduces eyelid inflammation, supplements the lipid layer externally, clears meibomian gland blockages over 30 days, and restores tear film function permanently, yet it generates none of those codes. Castor oil cannot be patented. Ricinoleic acid is a naturally occurring fatty acid identified since the 19th century. Any company can sell it. No company can claim ownership or create a protected revenue stream around it. Consequently, Castor oil never became part of dry eye protocols taught in medical schools, was excluded from clinical guidelines, and was absent from ophthalmologist recommendation lists. Despite this, clinical evidence supporting castor oil for dry eye exists in peer-reviewed literature for decades. The mechanism explaining its effectiveness has been understood since the characterization of the meibomian lipid layer in the 1980s and 1990s. The decision to exclude it from standard care was economic, not scientific. Yet the knowledge endured, preserved in integrative medicine clinics, naturopathic ophthalmology practices, and among patients who discovered it after conventional treatments failed. Practitioners in integrative medicine who examine the full spectrum of published research, rather than only studies funded by pharmaceutical companies, have recommended castor oil for eye treatment for decades. Their patient outcomes consistently reflect what controlled clinical trials have shown. In 2020, a research group at a university in India conducted a randomized controlled trial comparing castor oil eye drops with standard artificial tear therapy in patients diagnosed with evaporative dry eye disease. This was not a simple observational study. It was a gold standard randomized controlled trial. The group treated with castor oil experienced superior results across multiple objective clinical measures. Tear breakup time, the measure of tear film stability, improved more in the castor oil group. Ocular surface staining scores, which indicate corneal damage caused by dryness, showed greater improvement in the castor oil users. Patient-reported symptom severity also decreased more in this group. The artificial tear group showed only modest improvement in subjective symptoms, and no significant change in objective tear film stability, because artificial tears address symptoms, while castor oil addresses the root cause. This study appeared in a peer-reviewed ophthalmology journal, but received minimal attention in mainstream medical media. No ophthalmology professional body issued statements, and standard dry eye treatment guidelines remained unchanged. Previous studies had already demonstrated consistent results. A 2018 study in contact lens and anterior eye produced similar outcomes. A 2016 study in the Journal of Optometry confirmed the findings. Independent research teams across multiple continents have now replicated these results. The evidence is robust. What is lacking is financial motivation for institutions with the authority to act on it. Here is the precise protocol for using castor oil. Step 1. Purchase cold-pressed, hexane-free organic castor oil. Each term is essential. Cold-pressed indicates the oil was extracted mechanically without heat, preserving the therapeutic properties of ricinoleic acid. Heat extraction damages this acid, reducing effectiveness. Hexane-free ensures no chemical solvents were used in processing. Hexane is a petroleum-derived solvent used in cheaper oil production, and no one wants petrochemical residues near their eyes. Organic confirms that the source plants were cultivated without synthetic pesticides, critical because this oil is applied directly to your eyes. A 4-ounce bottle of cold-pressed, hexane-free organic castor oil costs between $5 and $12, depending on the retailer. Using 1 drop per eye nightly, a 4-ounce bottle lasts approximately 5 to 6 months, making the per-treatment cost less than 5 cents. Step 2. Apply the oil only before sleep. Castor oil is thick and will temporarily blur vision if used during the day, making daytime use impractical. Applied at night, it works while you rest. Inflammation reduction and meibomian gland clearing occur overnight, so you wake with 8 hours of therapeutic treatment instead of untreated dryness. Step 3. Wash your hands thoroughly before application. Using a clean glass dropper, most therapeutic bottles include one. Place a single drop at the inner corner of each eye. Blink several times to distribute the oil evenly over the ocular surface. Mild blurring may occur immediately, but this is normal and temporary. Close your eyes and sleep. Step 4. Remove contact lenses before applying the oil and avoid reinserting them until morning, as castor oil is incompatible with contacts. Step 5. Repeat nightly without exception for a minimum of 30 consecutive days. Many users report that within the first week, their eyes feel less gritty and more comfortable upon waking. Morning dryness, the characteristic discomfort that drives frequent use of artificial tears, begins to diminish within 2 weeks. Users often notice a decrease in daytime artificial tear usage as the lipid layer gradually restores, slowing evaporation and allowing aqueous tears to remain longer. By 30 days, clinical measures of tear film stability show measurable improvement. Ricinoleic acid progressively clears meibomian gland obstructions, restoring normal secretion. The lipid layer functions fully, and natural tears now stay in place. Total cost for 30 days of treatment is roughly $1.50. By comparison, the prescription alternatives, Restasis or Xiidra, cost between $400 and $600 for 30 days and do not restore meibomian gland function. These medications target lacrimal gland inflammation, affecting a different subset of dry eye cases while leaving evaporative dry eye disease, the cause of 86% of cases, fundamentally unaddressed. Across history, civilizations exposed to harsh ocular environments arrived independently at the same solution. Egyptian physicians battling desert heat and sand recognized it. Greek physicians studying their records understood it. Ayurvedic practitioners facing dry winds in the Indian subcontinent applied it. Persian scholars compiling these findings acknowledged it. The answer was embedded in the biology of the meibomian glands, present in every human eye. The chemistry of ricinoleic acid and lipid layer restoration carries no patent, requires no prescription, generates no billing codes, and produces no quarterly profits for any corporation. Dry eye syndrome has been treatable for 3,500 years, with a substance costing only $2 per bottle and lasting 6 months. What changed is not the science. It is the industry that built $8 billion in annual revenue by convincing 35 million Americans to bypass the natural health aisle and seek prescription drops instead. This is not conspiracy, it is arithmetic. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.